Welcome to Fairfax and Favour's Quick Fire Questions. Now, today's guest is a Young Rider Gold medalist. She is a 5-star rider. It is none other than Felicity Collins. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
What is the best piece of advice that you have ever been given?
Don't compare yourself to anyone else.
Who is your horse of a lifetime?
RSH Contendor, aka Mickey, of course.
What Fairfax and Favour boot would you wear to a trot up?
I love the heeled Emiras. I've worn them with a dress as well as jeans, and I just think they're stunning. I absolutely love the over-the-knee look.
If there is any horse that you could ride today, can be current or past, who would it be?
It would always have to be Toledo de Cursa. I am his biggest fan.
Felicity Collins, thank you so much for playing along with Fairfax and Favour's Quickfire Questions.
Thank you very much.
Welcome to the Equirating's Eventing podcast, and listeners, the Young Rider and Junior Europeans are upon us. So this week, the riders will be heading down to Hartpury in Gloucestershire to take place in the Europeans, and it's a really exciting time of the year. These are our future stars that we'll be seeing, and with me today to preview the competition, I have Nicole Brown. Nicole, how are you?
I'm good. I love a good championship. And these are the stars of the future, because some of our best top riders today have come through sort of the junior young rider ranks. And we are going to see some very special performances from names that we're going to see a huge amount of over the next few years. So I'm looking forward to it.
And one of the riders that have come through the ranks and at the top of the game now I have on the show, Felicity Collins. She's been at 3 Europeans, 1 in the juniors and 2 in the young riders. Is that correct?
Yeah, no, that is right. I was very lucky to go to 3 championships and really sort of set me up for stepping into seniors. And it's also, a lot of fun as well. Quite a lot of pressure, but a lot of fun. It's always a good week.
You've had a lot of success. Your junior Europeans, you won bronze as a team. And then that was in 2016. In 2017, you were on the Young Rider team and you won another bronze. And in 2019, you were also on the Young Rider team where you won team gold. What's this week like for the riders? You've been there and experienced it. What does championship week look like?
So, the one sort of difference, obviously, for this week for the British riders is that it's home Europeans. So when I went to my championships, I was always travelling abroad. Was really lucky to go to lots of different countries, which was a big factor in with the travel. So for the riders that are coming over from overseas or abroad, they've got to have quite a lot of preparation, obviously, to get the horses over and get them fit and ready, and make sure they all travel well. And then they'll probably, I would imagine, arrive on possibly the Monday or the Tuesday at Hartpury. But they'll have done their trials throughout the spring, pretty much like our British riders. And then they will have had probably a final run or a final trial. And then they'll have probably all had some sort of team training. To sort of, it's not only just to obviously practice and to get yourself on your top form, but it's also to kind of bring you all together as a team as well. So they're quite good, the selectors and the chef to keeps of making sure it's a real team atmosphere, so that you go to the venue and you get there and you do feel like you are really part of a team, and that kind of lifts everyone's spirits as well. So there's always, there's pressure, there's excitement, everyone wants to do well. You also don't necessarily know if you're on the team or you're an individual at this point. I mean, I don't know how other nations work. They may have picked them earlier, but for us, I think usually it was after the first trot up, I think, that the team and the individuals were picked. So that also can kind of shake things up a little bit. So yeah, there's quite a lot for them to think about. But yeah, I'm sure there'll be sort of a mixture of excited and nervous, and everyone's going to be fighting over those medals.
It's going to be a really exciting competition. And like you say, everybody's so talented. It gets so competitive. Some of the scores we've seen in the past have been incredible scores. And this is, like Nicole said, the stars of the future. So we wish them the best of luck. But Nicole, you've been to Hartpury multiple times commentating. Tell us a little bit more about the venue.
I have. And do you know what? I was sat listening to Felicity talk about her championship experiences, feeling so unqualified to talk about these Europeans. I was like, I haven't got any medals. I've not been abroad. No, do you know what? It is a brilliant venue. And we talked about it a little bit on the Grassroots podcast, Rosie, last week when we were talking about Bishop Burton College and the British Eventing Youth Championships, which are coming up. There's something that really kind of resonates with a college or a university hosting a youth championship, because it has that kind of campus feel. It has that real setup for young people, and the facilities are absolutely top notch. Hartpury is just unbelievable as an equestrian venue. The dressage and the show jumping will all be on a surface, so they have some brilliant surfaces. They've got the main sort of outdoor arena, which has an adjoined warm-up arena. Then they've got the big indoor arena, which I imagine they would only use if we had some sort of horrific weather. I'm pretty certain everything will be done outdoors. But there's a bank that runs around the outside of that outside arena, so all the flags, the atmosphere. It has quite a close feel to it, and it's a big enough arena. You can have a couple of dressage arenas in it, so when they host a lot of pure dressage competitions, and so one arena in the middle is going to be the real focal point here, and I think the atmosphere will build, especially with it being a home championship here in Great Britain, in an area of the country whereby, you know, eventing would be unbelievably popular. I hope they'll get a lot of crowds, and there'll be that real team spirit side of things as well. So that is the dressage and the jumping. The cross-country course is run over Old Parkland, and they've done a brilliant amount of work over the last few years on the ground at Hartpury. They obviously run usually their big 3-day event with a 4-star short in the middle of August, which they're still running again this year. But traditionally, that's always, you know, when we haven't seen a huge amount of rain. So they invested pretty heavily over the last sort of 5, 6, 7 years even on irrigation. And so they do a lot of work on the footing. They do a lot of work on the grounds, and you sort of run away from the start box. You go past a lot of the facilities, and once you head out into the main park, you go through the first water, presuming, of course, listeners, it's run in a similar direction to before, but the kind of the middle area of the course, it's quite hilly. So for me, it's always a real fitness test. It's always a real stamina test. Cross-country time is usually pretty influential, and so it's definitely a challenge of a cross-country track. So I'm looking forward to seeing how all of these juniors and young riders take it. And I'm actually looking forward to seeing what the course is like as well, and how they've mixed it up to the big 3-day that they have there, the NAF 5-star Hartpury International that they have there in the middle of August. So yes, that's kind of Hartpury in a nutshell. Brilliant facilities, tough enough stamina test.
I went there for the first time for the 3-day back in August last year with you, Nicole, and it's such an impressive venue. You got a buzz as soon as you turned up. And when you talk about the ground, we were walking the course and there was people out there with all these special machines checking it was all right. So I think it's going to be a perfect venue for the championships.
Yeah, they've taken it very seriously, and they work hard on it. And so I think now, and particularly, they've got 2 events running very close together. So they traditionally hold a 2-star long format and a 3-star long format in August. The young riders is held at 3-star level, and then the juniors is held at 2-star level. So they would have a lot of the questions. My understanding is that is going to be, you know, slightly different for these Europeans. So we might see things going a little bit differently to how we normally see them. And that's absolutely the way it should be. You know, it's a championship. It deserves its own track, and it deserves to be that way. So yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing what is in store and how the cross country jumps. But I think it'll play its part. I really do.
Definitely. Now, we've got a lot to talk about, listeners. But looking at last year, Germany won both team and individual titles. And a bit like with our 5-star eventing and Nations Cup, it is quite often a battle between the Brits and the Germans. So last year, the Germans had both team and individual titles in juniors and young riders. So they were very dominant there. And we looked at some of the stats, and since 2008 to 2021, Germany have the most number of team wins, of 7 in the junior section, most number of team podiums with 11 podiums in the juniors, and the most number of team top 5s with 13. So in the junior section, we've seen Germany fairly dominant, Britain close behind with 3 team golds and 8 team podiums and 11 team top 5s, get my words out eventually. And it's a similar situation in the young riders, but it's a little bit more balanced. Great Britain have the most number of team golds of 6 since 2008. Germany have 10 team podiums, which is currently the highest. And Britain have the most number of team top 5s of 12. So battle between Brits and Germans, like we see most of the time. Sorry, Nicole.
I'm just going to say, though, you were saying that Germany won last year. The Brits weren't there because it's been 2 years. 2019, which was the last year you were there, Felicity, in Marsbergen. That the
I
Brits
can still call myself reigning
team gold medalist.
European team champion.
Not for much longer. I haven't seen the Brits there over the last couple of years because of COVID-19. It was obviously cancelled in 2020, I think, and then 2021 travel restrictions meant that the decision was made not to take British teams. So yes, Germany dominated last year, but I've got your back, Brits, always. You weren't there, so it could have been different. Who knows? You can only beat what turns up on the day.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens. Like you say, Brits are back. We've got a full section of nations, so it's going to be really exciting. So I'll go to you first, Felicity. Is there anybody from the juniors section we're going to start with that you think that people should keep their eye on?
Yeah, so I mean, it's hard to ignore the Brits, really, isn't it? We've watched them for the past couple of seasons or however long, and I think they've got a strong team. I don't know all of them really well, but I do sort of follow it here and there. So the couple that sort of stand out for me is obviously Isabel Cook, Tina Cook's daughter. She will be riding Mexican Law there. She was actually direct reserve with Calvino, one of Tina's badminton horses, 5-star horses. And Mexican Law, actually, interestingly, I think he may be a homebred of Tina's, I think, but I can't 100% say on that. And he's only a 10-year-old, but he was actually, I didn't realise that he was produced up to 4-star by Tina, and Izzy took over the ride. Well, for her first season was this year, really, internationally anyway. Tina had a couple of problems at 4-star with the horse and maybe perhaps thought, actually give Izzy the reins and see if she can, go and be really competitive at the lower levels with him. I also noticed he's a very good jumper. He's had, 6 out of 9 clear show jumping rounds internationally, and that's including up to 4-star level. So I think that's pretty good, really. And Izzy's had some really good results with him this spring, despite not knowing him very well. So I think that's an interesting one. And then, of course, you've also got, I am going to talk about another Brit. You've got Jasmine Underwood with Indian Girl G, who was produced up to, I think it was 3-star level, at least intermediate, definitely, by Izzy White, another British rider. And very, very, very smart mare. I've always really liked her. So Jasmine bought her from Izzy, probably it must have been a couple of years ago now, and again has been getting on really well with her. They've had some really good results at intermediate level. She's very smart on the flat. I think I've seen some pretty low dressage scores from her. She's a good jumper and pretty quick cross country and reliable as well. So I think she will be one to really, really watch, especially in the first phase, and see if she can sort of hold it all the way to the end. And one thing I would just mention as well is, with these championships, it's everyone goes there and, you can look at the results and you can see the odd pole or you can see the odd 20 maybe, and you think, oh, are they going to, is that going to come back to bite them? But we've got to remember that they have, ever since being selected or being even longlisted, which is probably 6 weeks ago now, they have been training so hard for this. They will be completely in a bubble. They will have such a good plan. They'll have learnt the dressage test like within an inch of its life. They'll know exactly at what marker they're doing what. The trainers and the support that these kids get is amazing. So you do go to these championships. Probably the idea is for you to peak at the right time, as well as what we were always told. So even if your dressage scores have been a 32, you're aiming to go to the championship and get a 30 or a 29, and because you've been so focused with your one horse training with the support of the team trainers, I think we could also see some really, really like even bigger results being pulled off, because they will have been working really, really hard to dot every I and cross every T. So yeah, sorry, 2 Brits there. I do have others, but I will let you guys chat about yours.
That's what makes it so exciting, is everybody's coming on their A game. This is the best of the best at the moment. So it does make it really exciting. Nicole, you love flying the British flag. Will you be flying the British flag, or is there another nation you want to talk about?
Do you know what? I was just looking down the list of the Brits that outside of the ones that Felicity had mentioned. Finn Healy, he's a former pony European champion, I think, rides Father's Compromise here. Obviously very, very talented. You have got Grace Donner has Cooley Ramiro, which was the horse that Will Oakton actually campaigned at 5-star level. So look, the Brits undeniably strong, home soil. It's always an interesting one, the juniors, because it's at the 2-star long level. Some of them obviously have come up through ponies, but it feels like, especially over the last couple of years, where we haven't seen that many people, junior teams, particularly in the British side of things because of COVID, but things have been a little bit different. So you haven't had that consistency to kind of look back on. And we'll talk about a few of the young riders who have perhaps progressed from the juniors. So you see more form at the 3-star long level. But I'm going to Germany. I'm sorry, Brits. I'm sorry. Felicity has flown your flag. I will be supporting you, but I think Germany are the team to beat. They had Hedda Vogler, Niagara de Champonnet, went very, very well in what I think must have been one of their final trials, actually, at Le Moulin. And that was just a few weeks ago, back end of June, the week after the big 5-star. And they actually won their 2-star long there, and they finished on a dressage score of 27.6. And they were one of only a handful, I think only 3 people in the class actually finished on their dressage score. She beat a couple of the horses that will be on the team with her here as well. Matty Garlix and Ludwig 282. They went very, very well to finish inside the top 10. They were, I think, in around 5th. Then you had the likes of Hannah Jensen, Clara, who went well, and then Smilla, Marlene, Philippe, and Sir Boggles, who were the runners-up there. But the one I was going to mention, because we've already mentioned Izzy Cook, well, young Ruder is making his mark. Matty's Ruder has Bonton, Kai Ruder, of course, a former 5-star campaigner. Many of you would have been familiar with him, had that wonderful stallion whose name has flown straight out of my head. Le Prince de Bois, who I think you have foaled by. Did I make that up?
Yes, I have 3 Le Prince babies, and actually it was lovely at Badminton. I met Kai, and he was there watching Ginny Howe ride Le Prince, or PP as he is known, at the start in the stallion parade there at Badminton. He's 22 now, and he just sort of comes out the field, goes and does like all his flying changes and his movements in the dressage. A little bit old to jump now, I think, but yeah. And then I showed Kai a picture of his 3 children I have at home, and it's really interesting. He had a girl who's based with him there, and she's riding his eldest offspring, which is a 7-year-old now. And she said, very, very, very brave cross country, just like their daddy. So yeah, Kai had a great partnership with that horse. So I didn't realise he had a son actually. He's competing.
Well,
hopefully his son will be awesome.
I'm speculating. I could be totally wrong, but I'm pretty certain that's correct.
No, I think he did mention he had children. So I think he was saying that the kids, when they were little, used to sit on Le Prince and like go around the school on the buckle. They used to let him ride the stallion. So I'm pretty sure he does have children. So yeah, hopefully if he does, they'll be riding a Le Prince.
I'm sure he does, because he actually also rides, Matty's rides, has ridden Kalani Sunrise, who was a Kai Ruder ride. So, I mean, I'm putting 2 and 2 together, listeners, and I'm making 4. So I think I'm safe.
We'll go with that.
Bonton is the horse that he rides here, and while he was his sort of performance in the final trial didn't actually go to plan in Le Moulin, but Bonton won the 2-star long format at Westerstedt a few weeks before. And I would also say at Le Moulin, when it didn't go to plan, it did a 21.5 in the first phase. So keep an eye out for them there, because obviously very talented in the dressage.
Very exciting. That's quite a long list of names, Nicole, actually.
Sorry, I got quite carried away. Once I sort of went down the rabbit hole, I was like, right, I'm into this. Sorry. German team taken care of.
It's good. We like the excitement. I'm actually going to pick somebody from Austria. And this is Amy Rose Furworth and her 10-year-old Bay Gelding Gin Tonic 150. They're very good in the first phase. I really like their first phase scores at 2-star. They've produced scores of 21.9, 24.2, 25.8. I don't know if they're going to knock the best dressage score at Europeans for juniors, which we've seen by Bubby Upton and Eros DHI in Mill Street of 15.9. That was an incredible test.
I mean, it's going to take some beating, that one.
It really, really is. But I definitely think they're going to be very low in the first phase. They have a great cross-country record. Gin Tonic never had a cross-country penalty in his international career. They've also had experience at 3-star. They stepped up to 3-star in June at Feldbach, where they were 10th. Their weaker phase would be the show jumping, but I think they've got a lot of experience. So I think that extra experience will really help them, especially if it's around a tough 2-star course. And my other rider I wanted to mention, you briefly mentioned him there, Nicole, is Matti Garlis and Ludwig 282. They were 10th at the Junior Europeans last year, so they've got experience being on a championship team. Another one to be in the low 20s, high 30s dressage. They've never had a cross-country penalty in their international career either. And they're also very good show jumpers. The last time they had a show jump pole was back in 2020 with one down at Stragon, which was their first international together. So ever since then, never had a pole internationally. So I think, again, an exciting German rider. Do we have any others for the juniors before we move on to the young riders?
I would say discount France at your peril. They're always very, very competitive. And it's a little bit tricky, again, we find with the French team, similar to we do with their senior team. It's a bit harder to do some sort of online results stalking because they have such a good French national circuit. But they've got a really, really strong team here. Paul
Their
Barrett,
names are really difficult to pronounce. Like like maybe that's why we've kind of just scrolled past them because just don't want to embarrass ourselves. They're probably got with that.
You're okay. But they've got some really nice combinations, and I think should certainly be considered here. I would. I'll start by I think flagging. There was a 2-star long at Saumur earlier on this year, and Paul Barrett finished 9th there with Dealer of Love, a 9-year-old who he rode at the Europeans, actually the Junior Europeans last year. But that 2-star long at Saumur, he finished 9th, finishing on a dressage score of I think 27.6. But he had, 2 Thomas Carlyle rides ahead of him. He had a Benjamin Massey ride ahead of him. There were some very, very good horses, and I think shouldn't be discounted there either.
Some good company to be in that class. Very good company.
Exactly.
Yeah, the other one I was going to mention as well, just quickly, there was a couple actually. Again, these are just sort of horses' names I was picking up as I was going through the entries list. It's, it's really interesting to see these obviously more experienced horses that have been sold and bought by younger riders to give them some experience. So you've got for Ireland, I noticed former David Dole ride, who I believe was either one or was second or possibly both at 4-star level. Nicole's probably going to confirm that in a second. But is the S? How do you pronounce it?
I'd call it Iceby, but I mean, I could have been calling it.
Really nice little grey mare. Always absolutely loved her. Very good jumper, very smart on the flat, and obviously very good cross country as well. So she's ridden now by Susan Shanahan for Ireland. So that's a real sort of exciting prospect for Team Ireland. Good combination, because I can imagine she'll be one that would hopefully go on to the Young Rider Europeans as well with Susan. And then we've got a former Janelle Price ride in Cloud Dancer as well in the juniors for Belgium.
I tell you what, that would be a fascinating one, because Cloud Dancer for me always absolutely stood out, particularly in the first phase, and is very, very capable of producing some rather magical first phase scores. I'm just gonna do some online stalking, because I think you've
well, I had a little look, and it looked as if possibly there's been a sibling swap. It looked as if Cloud Dance has been ridden by the current rider's sibling, and then has done a swap fairly recently, I think, actually, because where are we? Belgium. So Marie has taken over the ride. It hasn't done an awful lot with this horse, but yeah, it will be on another one actually for Belgium. Here we go, Cruise on Inny, written by Eleanor Lafenus.
Okay.
That was obviously produced by Ginny Howe up to 4-star level in Britain. So we've got lots of sort of 4-star, 5-star horses ridden by Britons now flying the flag for different nations.
Lots of experienced horses, but like me and Nicole were discussing last week on the grassroots show, it takes two to tango. That was our phrase, wasn't it, Nicole? That although these horses are very experienced, you've got to be able to ride them correctly to produce the results. So,
I mean, Cloud Dancer would be a prime example of that, because he even likes to catch Janelle off guard on occasion. And I mean, he is one of the best riders in the whole world. So, yes, they absolutely take some riding still.
So we're going to move on to the young riders. And what was interesting in the young riders section when I was looking at some of the Hartpury stats is, like you say, Nicole, time is quite influential here. Normally in the freestar, 25% of people make the time on cross country. So
the 3-star time at Hartpury is tough. Felicity, you've ridden around Hartpury.
Yeah.
What is it about the 3-star in terms of the other sections that is particularly tight on time?
Well, I think it's just the undulations. Hartpury actually, don't think people always think of. I mean, you were mentioning it before, Hartpury being particularly hilly. Like, it is really hilly, and the 3-star is always built as, I would say, a serious 3-star. Usually, it does usually cause a fair share of problems, and I think it's just people stepping up maybe at this time in the season as well. Perhaps getting less experienced horses. It's a bit of a funny time of year when we have the normal Hartpury in the August, is what I mean. So maybe that's a little bit of it. But I think they just build it. It's built pretty big, and with the undulations as well, horses get tired quicker and therefore have to be nursed home. So then end up getting time faults, or the jumping just takes it out of them a little bit. So yeah, it's fairly twisty as well. So you sort of have to have a horse that's keeps galloping, maybe one that's not too strong as well because of the hills and the undulations. So yeah, no, I've done the 3-star there. I think I might have only done it once. I actually can't remember. Years back when I was 17, I think I did the 3-star there. When it was the 2-star. But yeah, I've done the new 2-star long there a few times, and the 4-star. And I'd say the 2-star long is more gettable, but the 4-star and the 3-star, really tough.
So I think the cross country is going to be a very influential phase for these young riders. The Brits have got a very strong team going forward. This is their second strongest team on ELO rankings. We looked at the ELOs, and their strongest team was in Marsberg when you were there, Felicity, back in 2019. This will be their second strongest.
Bringing those numbers up, Felicity.
I'm so chuffed with that. I thought you were going to say like something years and years ago, and I was going to be like, oh.
Nope, in Marsberg, and when you were there, your team ELO was 5.86, and the team coming to Hartpury is 5.23. So that's the second strongest ELO that Great Britain have had come into a Young Rider Europeans.
How many years is that, out of interest?
That's going back from 2015 to 2019, that is.
Okay, interesting.
So yeah, I think they bring forward a good team, and actually I know that many of us will want to talk about the Brits, but I thought I'll steal her first, I'm afraid, is Molly Faulkner and Call Me Cooley, because they are an experienced 4-star combination. They went to Blenheim last year, and that's been their only show jump fault on record in the 4-star long there. They're incredible show jumpers. They're the second highest ELO on the British team. They have an ELO of 6.13 behind Alice Casburn's top spin of 6.45. They were at Badminton this year. So I think Call Me Cooley, Molly Faulkner, they get down into the 20s on the first phase. Very good jumpers. They jumped double clear at Hartpury 4-star last year, so they know what Hartpury's about. I think they stand a really good chance.
It's interesting, isn't it, that actually the British team have got a lot of experience. If it is a really tough 3-star track here, they will be rubbing their hands together with glee, because they've got Alice Casburn topspin, who you've said, they were at Badminton, but they were at Po last year as well. They've got 2 5-stars under their belt, real tactical manoeuvre to sort of stay in young riders and aim for these Europeans. Molly and Call Me Cooley have experience at the 4-star long format. And then they're backed up by some really good combinations as well that have very solid 3-star form. So I think the Brits are strength and depth, and experience for them is going to pull through.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I think it's interesting as well, isn't it, mentioning the fact that Molly has been around the 4-star at Hartpury before and had a good result there, because I don't know how many other riders of the Brits have been around perhaps the 3-star or the 4-star track at Hartpury. I know Ibble did the 2-star there.
Yeah, she won the 2-star there last year.
And wasn't she third or something with this horse, or she was quite close by? I think that she's mentioned I think the scores were incredibly close, and if she hadn't have gone wrong in the dressage with Aristoteles, she would have actually won on him and not her other horse, I think was what it was. But I'm pretty sure
he was seventh.
Yeah, because the scores were so close, so I think she lost a couple of marks for the dressage.
Yeah, he was seventh on a 29.8 and she won on a 27.7. So
yeah, that makes sense. But yeah, no, that is interesting. And obviously, like you say, Alice has got the experience with the 5-star, so hopefully it will feel. But the only thing is, though, with when you do have a very experienced horse and you drop them back down a level, sometimes can be a little bit tricky, not only just with the flat work, because obviously you've been teaching them all of the flying changes and they go back to a 3-star test where they don't have any of that, but also for the cross country as well. They've opened up over these big galloping courses at 4 and 5-star level, and they've learned to sort of look for their fences in that way, but then shutting them back down a little bit. It was a bit like when I took RSH Contendor to Marsburg, and it was a twistier track, to be fair, but having dropped him down from doing, he'd done multiple 4-stars at that time. He must have done quite a few, and 2 4-star longs as well. And I found that really probably one of the worst rides I've ever had on him around that track, dropping him down to a 3-star because there wasn't really enough to back him off, and it was so twisty. So hopefully that won't be the case with these guys. But it's just interesting, isn't it, to sort of look at both sides of the advantages and disadvantages of dropping a horse back down.
I think I found our dressage leader from the Brits.
Go for it.
Phoebe Hughes, top Biats, who did a 21.6 when they won, admittedly at the 2-star level, the Young Rider 2-star at Bishop Burton Youth Championships last year. They won Kelsall Hill earlier on this year at 3-star short level, finishing on a 23.6 as well. So very capable of the mid sort of early 20s, and he would be an experienced horse. Has even been sub 20 when Hector Payne had the ride. Was a former William Fox pit ride, and I'm pretty certain by Corofino, but bred by Philip Brevois of the Oslo, the Biat stud over in France, where Oslo Biats, William Fox Pitt's 5-star winner, came from. So that's the kind of link in there, but very talented in the first phase.
So the current record for the young riders is Annalena Schaff from Germany and Fairytale 39. They posted last year a score of 21.5. So you're right, Nicole, could be one to even make their way onto the dressage leaderboard.
I have found an absolute humdinger. Can I go before anybody else spots it and steals it? I've got a couple, but this one is a bit more under the radar because I'm going to Spain. So I am actually going for the individual silver medalists from last year's Junior European Championships. They're stepping up to the young riders this time. And it is Marcel Piro Patau on a horse called Kira HDB, and then lots of numbers, 2088. But she's a 14-year-old mare. She went very well, as I say, last year in Sweden for the Junior Europeans to take the individual silver medal there, but have rarely been outside of the top 4. In their last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 runs, they have 2, 3, 4, 5 wins. So they're at nearly a 50% strike rate. Very good in all 3 phases, consistently mid-late 20s in the dressage, and very, very good show jumpers. So I am going for Spain.
That would be really cool, actually, wouldn't it? Because when has Spain ever won individual medal?
They've won an individual medal at juniors because they did last year, but I don't know if they've won a team.
Young riders.
I'd have a little look for you. I know their best team placing has been 8th, and that was in 2019. They could be looking to build on that.
Well, they will. They won't have a team. They have how many? Oh, yeah, they have got. Sorry, so the page went on. I was thinking, why have they only got 2? No, you're quite right. Yeah, so that would be interesting, wouldn't it? Because so 8th, did you say, is their best team placing?
8th, the best team placing.
Come on, Spain.
Yeah, come on, Spain. They've got a good chance, I would say. And to be bringing 6 out of 6 as well is pretty good, because, probably 4 or 5 years ago, they probably wouldn't have necessarily even always had enough to make up a whole team. So exciting for them.
Yeah, it's lovely to see a country developing like that and making their way. Because like Nicole said, they had an individual medal last year. Hopefully they can even make it a team medal this year. Is there anybody you'd like to mention, Felicity?
For young riders, you've obviously spoken about Phoebe and Top Biats. I would like to mention Ibel. Obviously, she is the current under-21 national champion, so have to mention her. So she's riding the horse that she obviously won the under-21s on, Aristoteles Essed. Now, this is a horse that I think formerly show jumped and didn't actually take up eventing until a little bit later in his life. And I think he's a 12-year-old now. And very, very smart and flat. Did a 21.7, was it, at Houghton, I think? In the under-21s, led from start to finish very convincingly. I know that Ibel has said in the past that she's had to work quite a lot on teaching him how to be a bit quicker cross country and how to gallop, but he seems to have, the fact that he made the time at Houghton and has been close to or has made it at other intermediates and internationals this year is a good sign, and perhaps just has taken this horse a bit longer to get out of show jumping mode, because he does jump very high, but he's very brave, and an incredible jumper on the last day. Wouldn't really I don't think she'd want to be sat on anything else really, but she has had the odd little problems with him. I think he's not the easiest, so she just needs to make sure that she really had him focused through the whole week, make sure they haven't let him get too fresh or anything like that, because I think he is a bit cheeky, and hopefully she can get the best out of him, because this horse, if he went the best he possibly could in all 3 phases, he would be very hard to beat, actually, I think. So yes, she would be one that I'll be watching very closely. And then just for Ireland as well, I just noticed it was quite interesting. In the young riders for Ireland, they've actually got 2 former Cathal Daniel rides for their 2 Irish riders. So you've got Sammy Davis Jr., who obviously won the Campfire or Clapquin new 4-star long, but as it was CCI 3-star back in 2018, won that there with Cal. And then also OLS King Aragon, another former Cal ride, now ridden by Zara Nelson, who has had some really good results with Cal. I think won the 3-star in Barocca at the beginning of possibly last year. I would have to double check that, but has had really good 4-star form with Cal as well. And both of these horses have gone on to do well with their riders, particularly OLS King Aragon has been going really well for Zara. They've had a 3-star win this year, actually. And that horse has also had good 4-star form with Cal. The only thing is I sort of question possibly time penalties on the cross country. They're still getting to know each other, but very good cross country horse and good jumper, and very consistent. So I think the Irish have got, a good shout at, if they can get all of their horses just to do a good, consistent job in each phase, even if they might not be have anything that's going to lead the dressage, then I think they could be on for a really competitive team score, to be honest, with the cross-country being quite tough.
There's an Irish rider that I want to talk about as well, Heather O'Connor, HSH Has It All, because they've only been outside the top 10 once at 3-star from 5 3-star runs, and they were 9th last year at the Young Rider Europeans. They know what it's like to be at a Europeans, very good jumpers. They average around 34 in the first phase, but like you say, Hartpury is a true jumping test, so watch out for the Irish. I
would just throw one in, Sive Bulger as well, who has Cooley Cappuccino for the Irish. I cannot believe we've made it to this stage with young riders. Rosie's dog is as excited as I am, listeners, because the young is going to be at Hartpury, and that is, of course, Calvin Bachmann. For any of you who are thinking, what the hell is she going on about? Basically, Calvin Bachmann is an unbelievably talented young German rider who we dubbed the young, as in the young Michael Young, a couple of years ago, and he has a horse called Alta de la Sens who comes forward here with him this time, and actually the horse is just absolutely incredible. She's 12-year-old, has never had a cross-country jumping penalty from 26 competitions, or 25 cross-country runs, I should say. Very fast, very, very good jumper. has done 1 4-star short, so pretty experienced, finished top 20 at Marbach earlier on this year, but is just unbelievably good in all 3 phases, and won their 3-star long format at Le Moulin was one of their last runs. But to put Calvin's kind of experience into kind of context, so he was part of that gold medal winning team at the Young Riders last year. He was team bronze the year before that. Also, beg your pardon, team gold in Marsbergen in 2019 in the juniors. So it's his first Young Riders, I should say. Then team bronze in Fontainebleau at the Europeans. Then he did 4 Pony European Championships. He took a whole host of medals, individual and team medals, has just had the most incredible performance, has done some pure jumping as well. And it's basically just unbelievably talented and is coming over to ruin the British party. Altair de la Sens and Calvin Bogman.
I think you're right there, Nicole. I think you may have found our individual winner. He is incredible. A really, really incredible person.
I would just say I found, because we've kind of skipped over the German team, and I know, Felicity, you're going to have to jump in a second. So I'm just going to say we are missing Greta Busaka and Scrabble OLD.
Yes, I was going to ask about that, actually. Why is that?
My guess is the horse is off injured. So when they ran at Le Moulin in the long format 3-star just a few weeks ago, Scrabble withdrew before show jumping. So my guess is picked up an injury, which is a huge blow to them. And actually, second horse inspection was second on a 26.2 going into the final day. So, very, very frustrating for the German team, and unbelievably frustrating that Greta can't be back to come and try and defend her title. So big blow for the Germans there. And I just had one more French horse that, Rosie, I think you found this French horse as well. I was very impressed by it when I saw it at Bramham.
Yeah,
the French young rider horse names are even more difficult to pronounce than the
Felicity is literally the horses and the riders that she can pronounce.
That's why I'm sorry. That's the only reason I'm not mentioning you is purely because I can't pronounce them. I'm sure they're all very, very nice horses. Well, anyway, I'm going to let Rosie tell you about why they're nice horses.
No, you're right, Nicole. We both picked up on this horse for Julie Simonet. This is for France, Circumcordor. I'm waiting for Nicole, my top pronouncer.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
Circumcordor.
Circumcordor.
Yeah, there we go. That's how you say it, listeners.
Yeah,
from the
any horse with OR at the end is a good horse. That's why you've picked it.
Are they related, Felicity, in any way?
I don't think so. No. Mickey's name isn't actually at all really related to his breeding. So, it's just the lady that named him. But I'm already in agreement.
They were third at the Young Rider Europeans last year. They were fourth at their first 4-star in Le Pouget. And last 2 years internationally, they've never had a cross-country fault, and they've had just 1 pole down. So another good jumper for the French team. I think they stand a really good chance, and I'm quite excited by them, Nicole.
Yeah, they took the individual bronze at Junior Europeans last year, and they went to Bramham in the under-25s this year, and they had a fall, but it was a fall at, I'm pretty certain it was at it was fenced fairly late on, and it was kind of, I don't want to say inconsequential because that's doing it down, but it wasn't an obvious place to have had a problem. So presuming that perhaps something just didn't quite go to plan there, it wasn't that they'd had a run out or anything like that. But very, very impressed with them there, and the French unbelievably talented. So yeah, big fans, and I think they'll do very well. I think the Brits have got some beating to do. I think if they want to take that team gold, they're going to have to beat some very, very good combinations.
Yeah, there's some competitive nations there. Felicity, I know you've got to jump, so thank you so much for coming on the show.
No problem. Thank you for having me to chat all things juniors and young riders and reminisce.
That's okay. Thank you for your insight as well as to what it's like to be a junior and young rider, because like poor Nicole said, me and her don't have any experience being on the young rider team. So no, thank you for that.
No problem at all. I'm sure these guys are ones that we're going to see in the future as well, and they'll soon be overtaking me and becoming strong competition for us seniors as well. So no problem at all.
Thank you. And thank you, Nicole, for your insight on Hartpury and all things junior young riders.
My absolute pleasure. My absolute pleasure. I've looked forward to it. I've enjoyed it, and I'm looking forward to seeing just what happens. So yeah, some good combinations in store, and watch this space.
Exactly. It's going to be really exciting. Taking place at the weekend, and best of luck to all competitors. Thank you very much, listeners, for listening, and we'll be back soon with more.